Between the four of us, each of us is prompted over 1 million times.
Reza Safai and his 3 co-founders at Massive Studios have collectively generated over 4 million AI prompts while building one of Hollywood's first AI-native production companies.
We really know the tools. Each tool has its own language that you have to speak. My initial prompts were like mini scripts. They were like, your prompts are so long. The way that this, studio has come together and all the different pieces and, how that's expanded has just been also kind of mind-blowing.
From AI on the lot and VP land, this is Inside the AI Studio.
Reza, good to see you.
You too, buddy.
Collaborated on Cinema Synthetica last year.
Yeah, that was so much fun.
Yeah, so just people not familiar with you, kind of give us a background of you and what you're doing.
Yeah, well, I come to this AI thing from a traditional filmmaking background, and, I've been very fortunate, I had a successful career in that world. My movies have won prizes at Cannes and Sundance, et cetera, and, I had a global hit for Netflix, and I really got into AI because, well, one, I've always loved technology. I was always around it. My dad was an inventor at HB Labs, and so I was always around the latest tech. I was, of course, interested in using it for art. And when the strikes, the SAG strikes and the WGA strikes happened, I actually had a movie that was greenlit that then, went away. And I had all this time on my hands. So, and of course, AI was a big contention, point in the contracts. And so I just was like, what? I'm curious, what can it really do? What everybody's, afraid of and saying and et cetera. So I just kind of jumped in because, I had time on my hands and I actually started with Pika Labs, and so what was interesting with that, there weren't that many people in the Discord. It's kind of insane to see how it's grown since then. But after I put the kids to bed and my wife was in bed, I'd just kind of roll over in my bed with my phone, go into Pika and make something and join their daily challenges. And then I ended up winning them every day. And then the moderators at the time, were like, you can't win these every day. They changed the rules, and I was like fine with it. But then they invited me into the CPP. So, which is the Creative Partner Program, and then I just started meeting a lot of people and got involved in a lot of amazing projects, including our T2 remake, the first AI feature, and then I was one of the first people to use Sora, one of the early people to actually have a AI film premiere at a major film festival at Tribeca. And through all that, I started, having a lot of really interesting meetings with people that, would have taken me, I don't know if I ever would have met, but people were really interested in what I was doing. And I was getting job offers to head AI for animation studios, et cetera. But it just seemed right. And also there was a lot of things that I would have to turn away, and it just seemed right to not do it by myself and to team up with some of the great, creators and stuff that I'd met, from around the world and form our own studio. And so we did that, and it's been blowing. The same way that AI has like kind of blown my mind creatively, but the way that this, studio has come together and all the different pieces and how that's expanded has just been also kind of mind-blowing. But it's an exciting time.
Yeah, and this is Massive Studios.
Massive Studios, yes. This was co-founded by myself, Dustin Hollywood, Alex Petrescu, and Mike Ewing, and then it's really grown kind of fast with our head of strategic development, Scott Holmes, kind of leading that charge, and us as well. And we started with commercials because the commercial space seemed much more open to using AI, and it's been really fascinating that they've actually, because they see our work online, and the clients will actually directly message us versus, the old way of like going through agencies and stuff, which, that still happens. We work with agencies, but our very first commercial that we were able to release publicly went viral, got 3.2 million views on YouTube, and that opened up a whole set of floodgates.
What commercial was that?
So that's for it's pronounced. It's an old pizza company that started in New Haven, and stayed in New Haven for a long time. And it's expanding from there, but it started in 1938 by these two Italian brothers, and it's called Sally's a Beats, and it's actually It's, if you read it without knowing how it's pronounced, you would say Sally's a pizza. But these brothers had their way of speaking and doing, and they're just kind of creating their own word, and it's stuck, over these years. And they're expanding, and our commercial has become a small part of that expansion for them. And and what's happened is with massive studios is we're in terms of we're doing film and TV, and there's an interactive project that is going to be premiering at one of the biggest festivals that we're doing. And then we're also working with really amazing like kind of well-known luxury brands, and we've actually been developing a tool in-house. One of the people that joined our company is one of the greatest product developers in the world. He started at Apple, but he did the Amazon Alexa and the GoPro, and so he's overseeing that. And so there's all these kind of interesting elements of the company, and I don't know, it's exciting to me.
Yeah. What's the process like, or kind of what's the tool set when you're like tackling a project and kind of figuring out how to go about it with what tools?
Yeah, that's a great question. I mean, one thing that we figured out is between the four of us, actually, each of us is prompted over 1 million times. And so I was like, this is insane, so we really know the tools. One thing, that in AI space, everything moves really fast. So I'm always, when a client asks something and, I always want to try it. We all do. We want to say like, okay, let's see it. But if there's something we really know, like we can't do, I'll preface it with yet, because we might be in production. Something comes out next week and you're like, guess what? I can do that now, right? But our workflow is really, okay, how do we, depending on what the ideas are that they bringing, because, in AI, it's one thing to create something yourself that people really love, right? Because you can creatively make decisions that based on what you're getting and still make it work, right? Whereas when you're working with a client, they have a really specific thing. It's like Sally's, for example, the person that designed their logo, right, is the same person who designed the Instagram logo. And they chased this person for 6 months before getting him on board to make this logo. So their logo, I mean, obviously with any brand, but their logo is like integral, and super important. Like, how do you recreate that without any fluctuation and all that stuff? So, figuring out the specifics of what the client wants, but then also being able to tell them and catch them up to speed. I feel like a lot of my job is really about almost educating people, in whatever space, advertising, film, like what the approach is. And, since I come from a traditional background, I can say like that traditional workflow does still work. This part doesn't, and I'll tell you why and where this goes. But in terms of the tool set, honestly, it's easier to say what we don't use, on a thing, because we'll go through the gamut. It's whatever will get us the thing that we want. And I think a common misconception that a lot of people have, you see these kind of like videos online where they compare tools with the same prompts.
Yeah.
And I'm like, it's not fair, because each tool has its own language that you have to speak. It doesn't go all the way across. It's not the same. So I don't know. We bring that knowledge to the table depending on what it is. But
how do you figure that out when you're prompting, or like how to get the best output from a tool?
Well, I mean, I think because I don't envy the people that are getting into it now, because there are so many tools, right? When I started, there was like 3 or 4, right? And so I got to know those 3 or 4 tools super well. Like just completely. And that's what I recommend to anybody who's getting into it right now, is just pick one, like a video and a voice, and that's it, and obviously learn about like filmmaking, because I think editing and telling a story is a whole other thing. But learn that tool thoroughly, and then, start to experiment with the other ones. But experimentation, we've, like I was saying, with all those prompts that we've done, and, we've experimented so much. And there is I've noticed with all 4 of us, we're all creatives, but there's this like kind of scientific part of us that we kind of love being in a lab, so to speak, like, oh, I want to see if I push this, if I do that, what will it do? And, it's part of the creativity, that kind of
you
curiosity.
Get the output and you're like, oh, if I change this word, and then try it again, try it again. Yeah, it gets addicting.
And also, over time, we've formed our own GPTs, we have different styles of prompting. I come from a screenwriting background as well. And so, my initial prompts were like mini scripts, and then
One single text prompt would be like a whole
that's when I
story.
first, I couldn't do that with the earlier ones, but with Sora, it first opened that up for me. And I remember from the Sora team, I was getting feedback. They were like, your prompts are so long, and I was like, yeah, they're like mini scripts, and they're like, does it pick up on all this stuff? And I go, well, I'd like to think so, and then you find things as you experiment, like how potentially you can edit, prompt with edits in mind into a clip, and I've figured out, some of those things, which,
Like
people want me to.
prompting where how you're gonna want to edit it, so you direct it towards the like end frame that you want, so you can have that cut.
Yeah, like and also mine is, that part is a little more like, I've figured out this kind of number system that works with Sora, and it just like once it sees that particular number, it's like, oh, let me jump to this next cut. And I'm not quite ready to share it yet because I feel like people should just experiment and just, figure some things out cool that they want to do. But also I like using it and being the only one that knows how to do it.
Do you still use Sora a lot? Because I feel like I remember, it came out or was announced and a big stir. And then by the time it's publicly released, so many other models had sort of caught up with the realism that it was like, okay, cool. Are you still using it?
I am. I'm still using it a lot. But again, I use a lot, I use everything. Sora has we still don't have like 20-second generations within any other platform, currently. So I know you can stitch things together, but to get one thing, and there's still, with everything I've seen, without using just using the tool, there's something about the fidelity and the resolution of the 1080 out of Sora that has this like cinematic feel that, all these things have their own feel. And that also plays a role in when we're, doing it. It's like, what is the feel of this commercial? Obviously the look and the design, because you end up becoming, almost like a production designer and costume designer and, all the different things that get involved in a movie. And the way that I write those prompts and the scripts is like that. It's like, normally you're taught to write a screenplay, don't direct the screenplay so that the director can do it. But now I get to, unless you're Tarantino, he writes that way. But like now I get to, write my scripts like Tarantino, be really specific about everything.
We're here at AI on the Lot. What have you seen? What's been your impressions of the talks, the event itself?
Yeah, the AI on the Lot, it's been a lot of fun. First of all, it's amazing to see how it's grown from last year. And I'm not surprised because it seems like, everything is growing. And it's kind of incredible to be in, the same city that not Apple, but Amazon and Sony and Amazon. There's one other studio here.
In Culver, specifically?
Yeah, I can't remember. Anyway, but it's kind of cool to have that, and then also to be like right next to the theater where they're showing like Mission Impossible, which is an amazing movie, by the way. What have I seen? So first, I'm seeing a lot of people that I've connected with in the last year, like online, and with especially like the different tools and the the putting faces with the people that are making them and are kind of expanding. So that's been really great, like with the guys who do Topaz, HeyGen, Kling, but I'm trying to think of a panel that it's hard because you get caught up in conversations with people and then the panel you wanted to go see is already happening. I appreciated there was a panel today about like the surreal avatars. And there was a lot of humor in the presentation, which I really appreciated. I found actually Doug Shapiro's keynote today to be, I've been following him for a while, and I thought that was amazing what he had to say. And
What stood out?
Oh man, it was so packed full of information. It's just he, in a very kind of, I guess it can be described, I think Mike describes it this way, as like a sober manner, right? He's not like trying to push AI or not push AI, but just like really look at it and examine it from a curious but fact and statistic-based point of view. And for him to give us a history of past disruptions in our business in such a specific way, and then where this next disruption is going, and there's no denying it. So I guess it depends on how you look at it. It could probably be depressing to some people, but I just found it like, okay, I'm glad that, when I made the decision, because, for me, it was like, okay, this AI, when I saw it like a couple years ago, I was like, if I don't get involved right now, I'm going to miss making movies in the future. And so, it just kind of reconfirmed that. But he's just such a eloquent speaker as well. And so, I was really moved actually by his keynote.
Cool. Well, thanks, Reza. Appreciate it. Where can people find out more about you and follow along with you and Massive?
There's so many places now, right? So I guess I would just say, if you want to, because, we are expanding, and we're going to be hiring, a lot of people. You don't have to know AI necessarily either, like, because editors, et cetera, we want to work with actors. But I would say, what's the best way? I guess go to our website. There's a contact there. It's the Massive, because I just know my email. You can email me. How about the Reza@themassive.ai?
All right. And I'm guessing the website's themassive.ai.
It is. Yeah. There you go. I never go look at our website. So
Cool. Thanks a lot, Reza. Appreciate it.
Yeah. Thank you.